Welcome back, everybody. Today we are moving on to Chapter 3. So we're going to be 3.1. We'll be discussing lines, the different types of lines, and the relationship between those types of lines. So there are going to be a couple of vocab words, but first we have to get our objective, which is to identify parallel, perpendicular, and skew lines. And I believe that word skew is going to be new for you. Vocab words, please write this down. It would be a good idea to draw this picture, okay, just so you have an idea of examples. I believe you may have talked about parallel lines and perpendicular lines before, but I do believe that skew lines will be new, so let's talk about that today. Okay, so parallel lines are coplanar. What does it mean to be coplanar? That's right, it means the same plane. But parallel lines, they are coplanar, but they do not intersect. So in this figure, you will notice there are several different lines that would be considered to be parallel. AB would be parallel to EF, and EG would be parallel to FH. This right here, these two lines, okay, that you will see right after the word parallel, that's just the symbol to mark two lines parallel to each other. You will use those in sentences such as AB is parallel to EF when describing two parallel lines. Perpendicular intersect at a 90-degree angle. It doesn't matter where they are. If they go down to a 90-degree angle, they are perpendicular angles. And you will notice this upside down T, that is how you label two perpendicular angles. You just put the upside down T in between them and make sure you label your lines correctly as well. Skew lines. Skew lines are something different. They are not coplanar, but at the same time they are not parallel because they are not coplanar, but they will never intersect. In this figure, if you look at AB and EG, notice that AB's would be on that back side going horizontal, and EG would be on that front side going vertical. Okay, they won't intersect because they are on two different planes. They're far away from each other, and they'll extend on and on and on forever without ever crossing. Parallel planes, it's very similar to parallel lines, except you're dealing with parallel planes, two planes that will never intersect. So as long as you can identify a plane by 3 points, 3 coplanar points, using that parallel sign, you can mark two planes being parallel. So segments or rays are parallel, perpendicular, skew if the lines that contain them are parallel, perpendicular, or skew. So what that means is if I give you a line, not moving the slide, if I give you a line AB, say this is AB, and let's say this is line CD, very original. Let's say those are two parallel lines. Line AB is perpendicular to line CD. That also means that line segment AB is perpendicular to line segment CD, because the line segments inside that line or that ray AB would be perpendicular to ray CD, because the line segments and the rays inside those lines are also parallel, perpendicular, or skew. So let's look at a couple of examples. Okay, so what I want you to do is identify each of the following examples. There's going to be several correct answers, a lot of correct answers. I'll give you an example of one. And if you have any questions, please let me know. So identify each of the following. Draw that shape and write down your answers. All right, so if you look at a pair of parallel segments, if you notice these little markings right here on these line segments, those little arrows, that tells me right away that those two line segments are parallel to each other. So those are a dead giveaway if they are parallel. If they are if they have two dashes here or two arrowheads, that just means they are parallel to the ones with two arrowheads. So all four of those lines would be parallel. So an example of two parallel line segments NK would be parallel to line segment ML. But that would also, we could also continue that on to make it also parallel to line segment SP and line segment RQ. All these lines would all be parallel to the same thing because NK and ML would definitely be parallel because they're on the same plane, won't ever cross. ML and SP, parallel, same plane, same thing with SP and RQ. They will be parallel because they won't cross the same plane. Now, other ones that you could have, KL is parallel to NM, NM to SR, SR is parallel to SQ, or you could even have SN is parallel to RM, RM is parallel to QL, QL is parallel to KP. A lot of different answers that you could have. Okay, or you could have a mixture of those. As long as you have two lines that appear to be parallel, I would definitely focus on those markings right there, on those arrowheads. Skew lines. Skew lines is something different. A couple of skew lines in this. Okay, I'm going to pick off NK is skewed to, let's look at this, LQ. Okay, I picked a horizontal line and a vertical line, two lines that won't ever cross, and do notice that they are not on the same plane. So NQ would be parallel, or sorry, not parallel, would be skewed to LQ or MR. Those two lines would also be skewed to SR. A lot of those different lines. Notice that, again, this is horizontal. It would be skewed to all of these lines in red, okay, because they are not on the same plane and they will never cross. I would accept any one of those answers. You could have picked a different line segment. It's just going to depend on which line segment you would pick to find out which line would be skew. If you have questions on that, please ask me. Pair of perpendicular sides. Again, what does it mean to be perpendicular? They intersect at 90 degrees. I know that's what you were thinking. So just a little refresher, you could see that NS is perpendicular, upside down T is perpendicular to SR. Okay? You could look at SR as perpendicular to MR, and so on and so forth. Anytime you see this wonderful box that tells me that it crosses at 90-degree angle, that tells you that those two lines are perpendicular. Finally, parallel sides, parallel planes here, two planes. If you look at a cube, they have opposite sides. So plane NKL would be parallel to plane SPQ. Okay, if you look at this, that would be that top of a cube and the bottom of the cube. Two opposite sides, top and bottom, left and right. Could be, something along those lines. Those two would also be parallel sides, parallel planes. That would work as well. Okay, this is a brand new one. I want you to try to do this one by yourself, and we'll talk about this afterwards. Again, there are so many parallel segments. I could name them all, but it might take me an extra 10 minutes. So I'm just going to give you an example of parallel segments. If you have it, great. If you don't, just remember that these wonderful symbols, these arrowheads, tell lines that are parallel. So you can definitely use those as parallel symbols. If you look at perpendicular lines, look at that box. That box tells you what is at 90 degrees, and it can give you the answer right there. Skew lines is something different. Again, ask me tomorrow if you're still a little hazy on skew lines. Okay, so if you look at parallel segments I'm going to go with CD is parallel to BE. Okay, again, you could also, CD is parallel to GH, it's also parallel to FJ. All of those with the double arrowheads are all parallel. You could have had FB is parallel to EJ, parallel to DH, parallel to CG. All of those are also parallel. I would accept any of those answers. There's going to be multiple answers to each one of these questions. Same thing with quizzes and tests in Chapter 3. There's going to be multiple answers. Okay. Skew lines. If you look at a pair of skew lines, CB, I'm going to stick with CB, line segment CB, and line segment EJ. Okay, so I'm looking at a horizontal line, and now I'm going to be looking for a vertical line that's on a different plane. So EJ right here. If you look at that, those are basically on opposite sides of that cube, or opposite corners. Two lines that will never cross. All right. Also, skew. Notice that I don't have. There is no symbol for skew lines. If I'm looking for a pair of skew lines, I just put the word, or the symbol and for and. You could just write out the word and. There is no symbol for skew lines. Okay, perpendicular lines. Erase. Erase. Awesome. Okay, so now looking at a pair of perpendicular lines. Perpendicular lines come together at what type of an angle? A 90-degree angle. And how do we label a 90-degree angle? Or not label? Well, we label it with a box, of course. But what is the type of angle a 90-degree angle would be? I hope you're thinking right angle. Okay, it is a right angle. A pair of perpendicular lines would be BF and FJ. Okay, those would be two perpendicular lines. How do you put the perpendicular line segment symbol? Upside down T. Perfect. Pair of parallel planes. I want to say parallel sides, but we're talking about parallel planes now. Okay, so if you look at a bunch of parallel planes, there are several answers that you could get. One being plane BEJ is parallel to plane CDH. Those two are parallel. Again, we use our parallel symbol. You can use several different symbols for plane. You could write out the word plane with 3 coplanar points. That gives you it. Or if you give me 4 coplanar points, that also works. 3 is enough though, but you do write the word plane out. Awesome, guys. I hope you learned a little bit from this lesson. I'm sure you did. And I will see you tomorrow. Have fun.